Hey guys, how you doing today? Just got off work, just got out from the grocery store on my way home. Perfect time to do a recording, as always. Beautiful day today. Holy cow, gorgeous day. Just summer is not letting go, and fall is really taking its time to actually settle in. The leaves are starting to turn, but the transition is taking its time. I'm not complaining. I think I might actually get into the water again today, which is, I'm gonna miss my swims. I was doing a daily swim, and I'm gonna miss it over our cold Canadian winters. Oh well, such is life. What's banging around in my head today? I think what I really do want to talk about is that it's become pretty clear to me that the Liberal strategy with the CERB is the classic divide and conquer strategy. That the Liberals, in haste, and because it was an emergency, passed an important measure, which they call the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit, the CERB, or I guess you could call it the CERB. I guess it's actually the CERB. Anyway, people call it the CERB. Let's call it the CERB. So the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit was put into place in haste, and since then, it's become pretty clear that the Conservatives and Liberals alike have been looking for ways to wean it off of the populace. That they wanted this measure, they always intended for this measure to be temporary. It wasn't going to be a basic income, it wasn't going to be a permanent measure that was going to continue through. Which tells you exactly how short-sighted these politicians are, and the capitalists are in general, right? They really do operate on 3 to 4 month cycles, and they think no farther. Because, initially when they put the CERB in, it was supposed to end in July, if I recall correctly, right? They really did put it in with the hope that it would be like a 4-month bloop and it would be gone, right? But then it became obvious that if they did let it dry up, they would basically evict millions of people. And you want to lose an election? That's how you lose an election. So they just keep kicking the can down the road, month by month, right? Because that's how you maximize the terror in the populace, right? You convince them that, we might just decide it's not going to happen next month. Oh, it's not going to happen this next month. Oh, it might not. And then they kick it down right at the last moment. They just kick it down the road, scaring as many people back into the capitalist system as they can. So, but now they have to come up with another plan, right? They have to come up with another plan. Their goal is to eliminate the CERB, right? That the CERB was always supposed to be a temporary measure as far as the capitalist class was concerned. They have no intention of helping people outside of this overt and obvious pandemic. How do they get rid of the CERB? And so what they're doing now, right, is they're dividing and conquering. A classic strategy, right? So they're funneling some people into the EI system, and then they're closing down the CERB. Because the danger of having one group of people who are in a single benefit is that that's one issue, one group, one big voting block. If you try to go after the CERB, you're going after a big group of people, right? So what you do is you funnel some people into the EI system, right, which operates pretty much exactly as the EI system has always acted, right? You pay into it, and then it peters out after a little while, either forcing you back into the capitalist system or you die. And the capitalists have always been okay with that arrangement, right? You either find a new job, find a new way to sell yourself to the billionaire-dominated market, or you die. And That's capitalism, baby. So that's one branch. And then there are people who are still going to be what is it? The Canadian, the CRB now. So it's not the emergency response benefit, it's the Canadian response benefit. And some people are being funneled down that line. Some people are being funneled into the ODSP line, right? Like, so, oh, you have a disability. And the goal here is to create many different bureaucratic pools of individuals, so that if you need to go after, or if you choose rather, because you don't need to go after any of this, you're just choosing to. So if you choose to go after any of the, if you choose to go after people who are on any of these benefits, well, you can choose a small group of them. And the harder you make it and the more means tested you make it for people to actually get these benefits, the less people can actually rely on it and be a part of it. And so as we move forward, I expect to see the Liberals creating a constant and continuous branching effect, right? Creating different types of benefits. That's why there was a student benefit, right? Creating a just cascading amount of benefits that have a just consistently added on, means tested system, right? And as we move forward, it's got to get more obscure, and it's got to get more obfuscated, it's got to get more difficult, it's got to become more impenetrable, just week by week, day by day. It's got to become more difficult to interact with and more difficult to actually get the help you need, right? And one of the classic bureaucratic runarounds that they'll do is you'll start applying for benefits, let's say through EI, right? And then you'll get halfway, a third of the way through the process, and they'll tell you, oh, you know what? You're not actually eligible for this particular benefit. You're looking for this other benefit over here, which accomplishes the same thing but has a different name, and takes you to a different bureaucratic branch so that you can check a different box. And of course, it takes weeks in order to do that. And in that time, they're hoping that you're just going to give up and attempt to find a job or die, right? Because capitalists don't care if you die at all, right? If it was up to the capitalist class, they would still be sending your children down chimneys the way that they started. So the goal here, right, is to divide the populace, right? You can't have a single system, right? That was one of the powerful things about a basic income, is that it's a single system. It's clean, it's simple, everybody gets it. Everybody interacts with it. And even people who didn't need it, right? Just because I'm of the opinion that even the people who didn't need it should understand how much it is, right? They should understand exactly how much a survival wage actually looks like. Because I think that, like, there is a tier of wealthy, like the top 10% of people here in Canada have no idea what a survival wage actually looks like, right? They lose the concept of the value of money. It's like that line from Arrested Development, which I consider to be one of the greatest comedy lines ever said. Was said by Lucille Bluth. She said, "And how much can a banana cost? $10? It's so absolutely out of touch and delusional, but at the same time completely believable, that she doesn't understand that a banana is way less than $10, while simultaneously believing that $10 is an insignificant amount of money. So and I genuinely believe that there are at least 10% of the population lives in this space where they have lost what the value of their currency is, what the value of money actually is, because they have so much that it's irrelevant. You know, they don't need to know how much things cost, because they can always afford it, because that's how much money they have. And so back to the whole the liberal game here. The liberal game of dividing and conquering, right? Split up the populace so that you can attack them one by one and very steadily reduce these benefits, very steadily go after them, so that you steadily sell the populace back to the capitalist class. And the people who you abandon, right? Because that's what capitalism does. And I mean, the evidence is like right in front of your face, right? Homeless people are abandoned people. They've been abandoned by the capitalist system. And so what you do is you steadily just abandon small groups of people. And in such small numbers that your media apparati, right? And I would say that the media that are loyal to the liberals at this point are got a plane flying overhead if you can hear it. The media that's loyal to the Trudeau government, to the liberals, are the ones that are receiving subsidies from them, right? So that's the Globe and Mail, that's the CBC, that's CTV, Global News, right? These people are not going to stand up and actually point out what's obvious, that the Trudeau government is actually creating a more bureaucratic and more difficult way to get benefits in order to divide the populace into small groups and then abandon them. Because they can't abandon them en masse. That's a disaster politically. But they can abandon them very steadily and in a very trickling kind of a way, so that they can say, oh, they fell through the cracks, when it's very clearly a plan and it's very clearly what they're setting out to do. Now, the second wave might blow this plan apart. So we are heading towards a pretty sizable second wave. Here in Ontario, we are we're averaging 400 cases a day now. That means that we are back into June numbers, right? We're not at the peak of what the numbers were, but and we're trying to avoid that. And so the plan that the Ford government has is got leaked by the CBC, and it is a non-plan, right? It's just not a plan. Like, their plan is to wait for outbreaks to happen and then lock down those areas that already had an outbreak. So this is accepting casualties. That's what this is. From the capitalist death cult perspective, right? This is literally saying, we are willing to put workers at risk and have some of them die so that we can keep these places open longer. But we're willing to lock down after some of these people are infected and die from a deadly infectious disease after it's already happened, right? So they're willing to prevent further spread, but the initial spread is just, so if you're a worker, it's just luck of the draw. You just live in a lotto, right? You just are going to get exposed, it's going to blow up, and then it's going to lock down, right? And that's the system that that the Conservative government here in Ontario is rolling with. Literally saying, some of you may die, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. And as the cases increase, right, as we get to 500, 600 cases, which at this stage in the game, because we haven't got ahead of the lockdowns, because we haven't got ahead of any of the, because we haven't got ahead of the virus, right, we're actually farther behind now than we were in the first wave, right? The cases are higher now, like we were in lockdown by now, right, the first time. So the cases are going to get higher, and because of the way exponential growth works, they're just going to skyrocket, and we're just going to experience like a big wave. And it looks like the Conservative government here in Ontario and the Liberal government federally is just basically going, okay, we'll have it. And their plan is to be reactive, to sacrifice workers to the capitalist death cult, because that's what they do. While simultaneously it looks like creating a more obfuscated and obscure benefit system to help less people through a larger wave. Now, this might come to a head, right? There just might come a point where the cases are too high, it's becoming too widespread, it's too grotesque, right? There just might come this moment where it's too much, and so the government here in Ontario and the government in federally have to act rationally and have to act in the interest of the working class and have to act in the interest of the populace, because a deadly virus spreading around is dangerous for the wealthy as well. And a uncontrolled pandemic spreading around is bad for an economy. It's really bad for an economy. So the plan, the Liberals' plan to divide and conquer, may simply be blown apart by the force of nature, which, if we continue to act in the way that we're acting now, is 100% what's going to happen. And then this takes us down an interesting rabbit hole, which is that, let's say we get into the second wave, we have to reinstitute like a full-scale CERB again. We've got to go back to this just one streamlined system, which we should have had the whole time. Well, if we make it all the way through to April with this, right, we funded a basic income, right? We've put the money into a system that gives money to people in the populace, circulates it, and returns it to the government for recirculation, right? That's what a basic income is. We've already funded it. If we make it even to March, actually, forget April, if we make it even to March. And so they have to do everything they can to get it out of the popular consciousness now. And they're trying. And they'll probably fail, actually, because the forces of nature and what's coming in terms of climate change and what's coming in terms of all of this are going to make these capitalists look like goddamn idiots. Like, I am already of the position that capitalists are worthless. They provide no value and actually extract value out of the populace. I think that they're parasites. But there are large enough swaths of the populace that still gullibly believe that capitalists have value. Like, people will say to me constantly, oh, you don't like capitalism, even though they created a universal healthcare system or things like that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? The capitalists opposed the healthcare system. Like, you have to be illiterate to actually believe that. Like, the capitalists are slavers and genocidal maniacs. Like, that's their history, right? The history of things like universal healthcare or the union struggle has always been against the capitalists, but that needs to be eliminated from the consciousness of humanity. But eventually, like, the forces of nature will simply become too overwhelming for the capitalists to be taken seriously any longer. Like, I don't, like, you see these like revolutionary stories like the Maze Runner or Mockingjay or any of these kind of books that are made for teens, right? These movies where there's this like oppressed people and landowners and all this kind of stuff in like a dystopian future, and I'm just like, I just think there will be a violent revolution before that happens. Like, if people can't eat, right, they're not gonna just herd along, you know? But maybe that's what happens if a military crushes the populace, which is possible. Anyway, divide and conquer. That's the Liberal strategy. It's really obvious. I don't think it's going to last because the second wave is going to be so grotesquely huge. Like, we will start saying things like, what are we, America? Like, and what are we, America? Like, is Justin Trudeau just a prettier Trump? Looks like. Like, it looks like he's just gonna like let the support systems go. We're just gonna pile up into a second wave. Oh, okay. We saw what the Americans were doing, and we thought, man, we should get more of that. Forget what we were doing before, you know, helping people and saving lives. Nah, forget that. America, that's the way to do it. Anyway, guys, I'm out of time. Love you all. Go say hi to your neighbors. Have a drink. Have a smoke. Mwah. Good luck.